Jerry, welcome to Trade Stock Podcast, man. It's great to have you.
Justin, it's awesome to be here. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, we got Jerry Schill on the podcast. He has 1,700 team members he oversees, incredible operation, CEO of the Landscape Collective now, and you've survived two PE companies, the second recap as a CEO. Congratulations on that, just as it sits.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We built a business we're super proud of and appreciate everything that all of our team members provide for us every day to make this all happen.
You guys have an amazing brand out there. Everyone I talked to, I got to meet your brother about a year ago at a Crest event, and that was amazing. You got a great operator. I'm sure you get this question a lot. What's it like working with your brother?
Interesting. He's probably one of the greatest operators I've ever been around. I mean, if you need to get shit done, there is nobody I believe in this industry as good as him, and he can pull off anything. He doesn't ask anybody to do anything he's never done. He's been awesome because I come up with a lot of the crazy ideas and handle a lot of the selling side of it. And he goes out and makes sure we can execute on it. So we wouldn't be here today without him.
I love that. And I've gotten to work with my brother for a long time. He exited the business about 2 years ago, which was good for us. It was actually pretty awesome. He was able to exit and that was a whole thing, but it is amazing when you have your brother. I heard another podcast you did earlier this year where you talked about the trust that you have with family members. And I completely agree with that. You can trust your brother to always have your back, no matter how much you guys fight in the conference room. It's like when it comes down to it, day to day, that trust is everything.
Well, and I think even beyond just the execution piece of it, it's the courage, right, and the fortitude to tell you what you need to hear. I think sometimes we surround ourselves with people that want to be too respectful when you're proposing some crazy idea. And the one thing I got always count on my brother and several other people on our team to be candid and provide good feedback. So I appreciate him for that.
Yeah. So Jerry, let's give the listeners a little bit of a bird's eye view of the company today. You guys started back in the early 90s, scrappy startup doing custom residential. You guys went all maintenance in 2010, and then you partnered with a sponsor, and you guys have had an incredible accelerated run for the last 5-6 years. Maybe just give us a couple of those big high-level notes of the last 32, 33 years. How long have you guys been going?
Yeah, 34 years. And I will tell you, I'm typical, right? I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love business. I love fixing things. I love challenging myself and the team. To always build better. I've got a personal mantra to do good. And that means a lot of things personally and professionally. I still love what I do every day. It's been a lot of fun, but because I've been that serial entrepreneur, I've been involved actively in peer groups for decades at this point. Some of the greatest relationships I've developed have come from those peer groups, but I expanded beyond that, became a Vistage member 14 years ago. And when I reinvented the business in 2012 and decided to kind of pivot and do what we were doing today, that group has provided an unbelievable amount of experience and wisdom and thought leadership, really, as we continue to kind of grow and expand the business. We have taken this business in a box concept, right? How do you create this hedgehog? If you read Jim Collins' Good to Great, it's something. I'm not the greatest reader on the planet, and I'm not going to sit here and quote all kinds of different, lines from the book, but that hedgehog concept resonated big time with me. We had a P&L that had 15 different profit centers on it for years. And we slowly started to refine that down, working with gurus like Frank Ross and Kevin Kehoe and some of these other consultants. I think we've used every consultant in the industry. But continue to just always look for better ways to run and optimize the business. We really got laser focused on people utilization, right? How do we utilize our people year round? I didn't want to be one of these seasonal employers. And then how do you keep your equipment moving? So asset utilization. So those were the two big drivers for us. And as we started thinking about those things, we started thinking about ways to kind of clean up and refine the business. Maintenance made sense for us at the time. And today we're about 93% reoccurring revenue. I hear people talk about it all the time. It's like, you got to do one thing or the other. No, you just do what you love and just be great at it. And whether that's design build, and you guys do some crazy stuff,
Yeah.
My younger brother owns Green Impressions and does some crazy design build stuff in Cleveland, which is awesome. But like our thing has just been the maintenance side of the business. It was simple, it was repeatable, it was scalable, it was portable. So all those things. So we've been really successful since 2012, basically with about $2.5 million of the revenue. Today we're sitting right at 8 states in Canada. We've got an awesome team. I think we're pushing probably close to 2,000 people today.
Wow.
We talked and joked about it a little bit earlier. We still have the same issues and the same challenges that we've always had. We tend to make mistakes and solve them a lot faster today because we've surrounded ourselves with really smart, really cool people. And then, kind of on top of that, as I continue to think about growing and expanding the business, it didn't make sense for me to use all of my own personal capital. So we went out with Jeff Harkness, actually, from 3 Point Group, and raised some capital in our first round with Argon Capital. Was able to kind of bring the business that I had dreamed of and wanted to build over time to life, and just completed a new partnership with TrueArc out of New York. Same kind of folks. They're just really bought into the vision and the direction of the business and the things that we're doing, and are really excited to help us kind of take this to the next chapter and what we continue to build.
Wow. I'm going to ask some questions on all the stuff you just hit on, but when you talk about the future, you guys 200 million, 2,000 team members, what does the next chapter look like for you guys?
Well, somebody asked me in Vistage, I think in 2014, what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to build $1 billion company, and it may come across a little funny or sound a little bit sarcastic, but for me, I mentioned it a minute ago, my mantra has always been do good. And
Yeah.
when I think about what we've been able to provide our customers and our people and the communities that we've been involved in, you can do a lot of good with that kind of business. And, we're not just kind of that moonshot kind of statement that I made. And it was really the catalyst for really getting people aligned culturally with what we were trying to do and bought into the vision and direction of the business to kind of, maybe we'll never get there, but we're going to keep pushing and try to do as much good as we can while I'm still at the helm.
Yeah. No, I love that vision. I share that vision with you. I was at a dinner in Texas with a couple guys, and I was telling them about my vision of 30 million by 2030. And this is 2023. And they challenged me. They're like, 30 million, dude, you're going to be there like in a year or two. And we're coming up on that. And I kind of went back to the drawing board and said, why not $1 billion? Why not $1 billion? And so that's been a number we've kind of put up there. Same to you. It feels weird saying it out loud, but it is a number that seems so big, so unattainable. It's just, how close can we get? It's a moonshot. And you guys are doing the work, as you crest and approach and go over 200 million. I mean, it's headed there. So how does it feel going from just in the last 5-6 years, a single type of a company, right? You, your brother, CEO, you're running it, your own capital, now on your second sponsor and partner, financial partner. What's the feel of a day-to-day like as a CEO when you wake up? Is it like dramatically different? You're like, man, I'm a $200 million CEO, or is it, hey, it's just another day to go out and do good?
It's a good question. And probably one of the areas I've struggled the most with as we've continued to grow and expand. I've always been an operator. I'm a founder.
Yeah.
I'm an operationally minded CEO. I'm not this financial guy that sits in a room punching out spreadsheets and just analyzing data. I like to be where the action is. I like fixing and solving problems. And I think that kind of that entrepreneurial, that scrappy mindset that not just myself, but all the affiliates that we've partnered with, all these folks that I've met in peer groups that become part of the collective, we've all continued to align culturally on the things that matter the most, and that's people. And so we wake up every single day just trying to do better for the organization. Like there's this constant improvement mindset across the entire organization. And I'll tell you, again, we were joking earlier, we've got the same problems that we had 34 years ago, just 37 times over. And, there's always challenges, whether it's people, process, profits, customers, issues popping up, software these days. You just have to wake up every day understanding and realizing why you're doing it. And for me, it's to do good and build a better, longer, more sustainable business for the future leaders of the organization. And that's really what motivates me. I think you have to be self-aware enough to understand that things are going to happen. and you have to have the emotional fortitude and build a team around you that can help you kind of get through some of these challenges and issues that we face on a day-to-day basis, whether it's weather, all the new ideas that are happening. The rate of change today is just incredible. So the constant bombardment of everything that happens, it's an area that I continue to try to get better at. I wouldn't say I suck at it, but I'm not great at it still. But surrounding myself with people like you and a lot of my other peers that I associate with, trying to level up my game every single day, the weaknesses, and go find the help and support.
Man, well, there's a lesson right there in vulnerability and humility. It's amazing what you've built, and it's amazing that you still have that self-humility of, I need to keep growing. I want to talk a little bit about not the challenges of labor and technology and, did it snow enough or not snow enough, but I want to talk about the challenges you face with your people, and not so much the people in the field operationally, but really from a leadership team perspective, that regional level and above. You're working with some amazing talent. I've met some of your team. You guys have maybe some of the best people in the industry. You've brought people out from outside into the industry. And from my experience, those team members are incredible, but they can sometimes be very difficult to work with directly or as a team. What are some of the biggest challenges you've ran into over the last 3 or 4 years with high level talent at that, VP level?
Yeah. And I would even say it's, I would say like starting at the branch manager. I mean, we live and die by the success of our branches, that we see a future in a leadership position within the organization. I believe in a very corporate light business model, all of the power, so to speak, with some approval, and an authority matrix in place, happens at the regional level. Our goal has always been servant leadership. It's to remove the barriers and obstacles to growth. We are here to serve the people in the field, right? These are the folks that are out there making it happen every single day. So it's always been kind of a hire slow, fire fast mindset. And I think you have to surround yourself with culturally the people that believe in carrying out and executing the vision and the strategy that we've set forth in the organization. And if they're not, it's okay. They just need to go be happy somewhere else. And I think that's really important. And the reason we've been able to attract and retain some of the industry's best talent is because we really do put people first. And it's easy to say, it's not always easy to do. You have to have difficult conversations, and sometimes it requires, maybe separating from people. But at the end of the day, if you remember why your decisions become easier, and it's a lot easier to find the people that.
What are some of those core values that you honor that help to indicate if someone's a good fit or not a good fit?
Yeah, we have 3 simple core values. We're the Landscape Collective. We're a community of 12 brands at this point across 8 states in Canada. But there's 3 things that we've figured out that we all have in common, right? We're employee-centered, customer-focused, and champions in the communities we serve. Those are 3 foundational values that everybody has to believe in to be a part of our organization. And again, easy to say, easy to put it up on a wall, put it on your website, but you have to be willing to hire and fire based on those values. And, it's tough. It requires a lot of work, a lot of intentionality, but you have to ask the right questions and look at people's backgrounds. And, there's assessment tools out there, anything that you can use to give you kind of an edge up on making sure that you're going to find a good fit. You have to take advantage of it.
So if there's an operator out there, CEO running a $5 to $10 million company, and they have someone that is just, they run half their company, right? Operations manager, division leader, that is not fitting their core values. But without that person, they don't even know how they're going to get through tomorrow. Like, what's your advice to that person on how do you handle someone who's a great performer and does their job really well, but ultimately is not living the core values?
Well, I think we all know the answer to that. And but
how do you do it?
We have people like that in our organization today that we probably know in our heart of hearts that we need to separate with, whether we've already made the decision to do that and we're preparing to do it, or we've just avoided it because it's comfortable. And we don't want to have the difficult conversation. And we kind of put that person over the rest of the team. We've all been through it. I think at some point, once it finally happens, you're like, oh shit, why didn't I? The thing for me that has resonated the most over the last probably 10 or 15 years of my career is people are watching you. People
Yeah.
are watching you. I think people generally know and appreciate, and I hope, believe that I'm a good person and my heart's in the right place. But there are times when I put my head in the sand and kind of ignore things. And I'm fortunate that people will call me out on that, because people are watching and evaluating you every day. And that's really the definition of leadership. And it's not always easy. And I think we're all guilty. We've all been there and done it. Challenges that exist today in some capacity that we need to deal with.
I completely agree with that. And I think it's a good message to send out there to the world and to the next generation. We mentioned this before recording, but we're talking about how a lot of these newer companies that are being started are scaling to 5 and 10 million rapidly, like within just a few years. And I think a lot of those CEOs and entrepreneurs have not necessarily had to go through a case like this and make that decision. They've kind of, like, the team they started with is the team they have. Now they're faced with this decision, which ultimately is going to develop them as a leader, but they don't know what's on the other side of that. And maybe could you unpack a little bit more? Maybe there's a situation, or just overall this idea of getting through, letting someone go ultimately, right? Which is the right decision that I think we both agree on. On the other side of that massive barrier, like, what have you found from a positive impact to the culture, to the company, after making one of those decisions?
Yeah, I think probably the best example I've had in my career is think of this business journey as a set of stairs. You're going to scratch and claw and climb your way to the top. You're going to hit these plateaus, right? And then you're going to sprint and you're going to run and tread of that stair. And you got to scratch and climb and claw. It's okay to be in these situations. It's okay to be feeling the things that you're feeling and dealing with the things that you're dealing with. That's just part of growth. And you're going to learn most likely more from kind of the negative experience, right? Or the lesson, than you would when things are going perfect. When you're in full stride and sprinting, you take advantage of those times, but it's at some point you're going to have to deal with these things. And again, it's just, it is what it is. It's just the natural part of being an entrepreneur, and not everybody is going to be a part of your organization forever. It's really silly to think that that's the case. You surround yourself with the people you need at the right time for the right set of problems and circumstances, and you get what you can from those folks, help them, build out their careers and professionalize their lives and provide for their families. But at some point, whether it's, they want to leave and go do something different, or you need them to go leave and do something different because you need a different set of skills or personality types or leadership qualities, that's okay. You just deal with it as you go.
That's a great message. I think a lot of people need to hear that. I need to hear that. You get into situations where you feel like your back's against the wall and you're just like, what am I doing? I'm not cut out for this. This is a terrible idea to become an entrepreneur. And you want to kind of like crawl back into the hole and just say, screw this. I'm going to just fire everybody and, start over. And I think it's really good to send the message that this isn't easy. I think Elon Musk, or one of those guys, have defined entrepreneurship of like, chewing glass and staring into the abyss. At your, lowest points, Jerry, what helps you get through those? You've talked about consultants, Vistage, coaching. Is some of that helping you get through those days and weeks when you just feel like, man, how am I going to get through the next few weeks?
Well, for me, it really started out on the personal side. Like, I raised the kids by myself for a long time. And, I didn't have a clear succession plan in place. My brother wasn't interested in running the organization, from the top. God forbid something would happen. So we started having these type of conversations like, well, what's the business continuity plan? What's the business strategy look like? And my kids are all independently happy and doing their own things, and me, and then asking them to be a part of the business. I wanted them to chart their own path and create their own lives. And they've done that. But for me, it's always been about building an organization that's sustainable. We've got so many people that have given so much of their lives and the time that their family, commits to being away from them in the spring and in the middle of winter events. But to me, that matters. Like that carries a lot of water for me. And I wanted to make sure that our team was going to be taken care of in the event something did happen.
Yeah.
So in terms of partnering with some private equity that we're with, it was just as much about I had a belief and a vision and a passion for what we were doing. I knew that we had built an amazing organization, had processes and people around us that could help execute. But the other part of it was making sure the organization was going to be sustainable long term if something happened. So for me, waking up every day, sell out for us and give 110%
Yeah.
every single day. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me motivated. And I don't think there's really anything uniquely different about someone like myself or somebody running $1 million business other than really the number of headshots or body shots you can take every day. And, you know, we're going to get knocked down. We've had good years. We've had bad years. We've never had a year that we didn't make that were just emotionally draining. And, sometimes, those were the best financial years that we've ever had. But, at the end of the day, if you bought in and you believe in the vision, the mission, and the purpose of your organization, I think that's the most important piece to remember is I think most successful people I know are not successful because they have money, it's because they have purpose. And for me, that's supporting our people.
Yeah. Wow.
Regardless of what happens, you keep fighting.
Yeah. Regardless of, the financial quarterly reports that come in or the complaints or the turnover with clients. Tell me a little bit about your day to day as the CEO of a $200 million company. What are you looking at? Do you have a morning routine that you look at numbers every day? What's kind of your cadence throughout a normal, here we are on a normal Wednesday. What does the day look like for you, Jerry?
Normal is very subjective these days, but I typically get up at 5:30 in the morning. I exercise, I read, I do all those things. So I get some me time in, and then I really start kind of diving into the schedule, the calendar. Invariably something always pops up. We've got a great team around me, that is taking on a lot of the blocking and tackling and the day-to-day things. But if I have to stick my nose into something, I'll get involved in that. But pretty structured. I have an assistant that kind of helps manage not just my schedule, but our entire executive team so we can be as productive and valuable to the organization as we possibly can. But for the most part, I would say it's probably 60, 70% well-planned. It built out in buckets of time so I can stay focused on certain things. And then the other 30% is kind of left open to deal with. Not perfect, but a lot better than normal. I still like to be in the branches. So I'm down in our Columbus. I'm down at sitting in the Cohatch today at our Columbus region, helping these guys to interview some folks, bringing new people into the team and into the fold, the mix, making sure that they're going to align culturally. Me being a founder and an operator, I think makes our platform uniquely different in the sense that I understand I've been there, done it. We've kind of participated in everything that you could possibly have, an excuse for in our industry. And we still keep going out and trying to figure out better ways to get things done, to be more efficient, more productive, and create more opportunities.
Love it. Love it. So when you're in the branch and you are helping to interview and you're around a team, I can already sense that you have an ability to connect with people at a deep level. What are some of the things that you do to not make it feel like the CEO, quote unquote, the CEO is at the branch and everything's got to be cleaned up and everything's got to be in order? I think that can be detrimental to a CEO's influence and impact. So how do you make sure that you kind of break down those walls when you're coming into a branch?
Yeah, trust. Everybody on our team is relatable. I mean, we're blue jeans guys. We're out running around. Like, we truly want to help improve your life, not just your work life, but your personal life. So we're coming in there and looking at things. For me, the devil's in the details. I can walk in the front door of one of our branches, and if it's a mess and things are unorganized, and you can kind of get a sense of how the numbers may look and what their turnover rates are going to look like, or even their customer retention. If we can't take care of our own house, it becomes difficult to expect that they're going to take care of other people's homes. So, and then manage by walking around. Grab somebody, go walk around, show them and explain to them the way you're looking at things and why you're looking at things the way that you're looking at them. Help them understand that you care and you're just trying to create and add value. I think the why, we all say it, and I think we use it kind of interchangeably and probably a little bit too easily, but people need to understand, like, I have a vision and this direction I want to take the company and I want to do good. But at the end of the day, like all that little stuff matters, like the KPIs, 3 points here, 5 points there, the shop's a mess, fixed assets kind of sitting in a corner. Like all of those things matter. I want them thinking differently. I spend a couple hours at a branch with somebody and they get one good takeaway from it. And there's a connection between myself and the other leadership team and our folks at the branch. That's a big win for me. And people like to know that you care enough to get out and see them and spend some time with them as well. I don't get to do it enough. I can tell you that much.
I could totally understand with the breadth and the wide width of your company. It's a lot of people, but you hit on trust at the very beginning. And I think that's a really key point here. You can't necessarily go into a branch, see issues, and just start, spitting feedback if you don't have trust. It's probably not going to land. How, if you walk into a branch and you see things, the devil's in the details that need to be improved, how do you go about giving that feedback to the team? I'm sure it's not just a matter of saying it to them right off the bat. Maybe it is. What's your take on how to provide feedback to a branch?
Yeah. So typically the managing by walking around takes care of a lot of it. And then you just ask them to agree to a timeline to get things done. And I will personally ask them to copy me on an email when the things are resolved. I'm walking around with Plot on my phone. So I'm recording and doing different things so we don't forget. I want to be focused on the conversations that we're having, not taking notes and all the other stuff. So being able to share that kind of feedback. And I think if you're leading more with the carrot and not hitting them with a stick all the time, right, it becomes easier to have those conversations and people are open to them. So I have the same relationship with my executive team. We have an open door policy. Sometimes I think I should put some padlocks on it, but we have a very transparent and very open kind of culture in the company. And if something's bothering somebody, they do not hesitate to kind of let you. I think that kind of works its way down through the organization. And, once people know you care about them, they're not.
Yeah, I agree with that. You've talked about business in the box a number of times. I heard you on stage at a Leanscaper event last year, or earlier this year, one or the other, and you were talking about the business in the box and that concept. And I really, really love that. And I've been working on my own business in a box, and it's a lot harder than than you make it sound. You've definitely worked on this for a long time. What is a business in the box? Where'd you get that idea, and how do you scale that to 200 million?
Well, purpose first and foremost. I think you have to have kind of a vision and know what your purpose is going to be, and then you just start building all the parts one at a time. Like, I mean, look, we laugh all the time. Like, we're a 34-year overnight success, right? Like, we've gone through every challenge that you can possibly imagine. We faced them all head on. And, at the end of the day, you have to get laser focused and stay very disciplined on what you can be great at. And that was the one thing that I loved about the Jim Collins books out there on the shelf. But it's the one book that I consider like a toolbox for everything that I was just trying to accomplish. Like, what's the one thing we can do and be great at? That's our hedgehog, right? For us, that was maintenance. We had proven it out. And it's like, okay, now what do we need to build around us, right? What do we need to backfoot with to make sure that becomes a reality? That's kind of the flywheel. But just being focused, staying disciplined, saying no to shiny objects, which is really hard for me, which is why my brother's been a great partner and a great operator. Like, he wasn't afraid to kind of say like, hey, that doesn't fit in the box. So, and and over time you start getting that flywheel moving, you get momentum. You look back and you go, oh, well, staying focused and staying disciplined or like the time just cutting grass, because we were installing pools and doing all the crazy stuff. It's like actually just simplifying things is actually really elegant, and it's a great way it allowed us to standardize the type of people we hired, the culture that we wanted, the type of equipment we needed, all of those things, the systems, the technology, how do you focus on people and asset utilization. So all of that stuff just kind of got amalgamated together and put into that box. And it's the same concept we execute today at every location. Now, there's nuance, and you have to adjust for some of that stuff. Some of our branches have a little more. At the end of the day, our core business model has not really changed a lot. It has evolved as technology and other things come into the play, but we just continue to stay super focused on what we're doing.
Yeah. So that I think that's a really, again, easy thing to say, hard thing to do is staying focused on one thing. And how much of that plays into when you are acquiring, looking to partner with a new company out there in a new market you guys aren't currently in? Are you really looking at a business that fits into what your service mix already is? Or are you looking for people that you then can kind of take them into the direction? How much of that plays into your partnership profile?
We're a maintenance driven organization. Truthfully, we're not going to add a lot of value to a construction business because we don't understand it. We don't do it. We don't have the resources or the capabilities to add. It would be a miserable fit for the seller. So we shy away from that. Business mix matters, and obviously the performance. So somebody that's definitely tilted and skewed towards a maintenance driven organization, because culturally they're going to get seamlessly than somebody that's, used to, sticking plants and pools in the ground.
Yeah.
The next piece is the people. I mean, we talked a little bit about culture, but these folks, understand what we're doing. It becomes easier to train and help them level up their game. We can add. So the business mix doesn't matter quite a bit.
Yeah, the people. And how, so when we talk about people, and I know that you are a big fan of incentive programs for your team and making sure people are incentivized. What are some of the key drivers of incentivization that you really focus on for your branches and your crew leaders? What are they incentivized on? What's their focus?
Yeah, so we believe in gamification a lot. We're constantly a contest. Maybe a branch is a little sluggish on sales one month, so we're putting a bunch of incentives out there. We got recruiting issues or staffing challenges. So we try to make things fun as possible, even when things aren't that fun. But at the end of the day, I've listened to a speaker, his name was Hunter Lott years ago, and it was always about, it's a lot easier to reward people for the behaviors that you want, right? Than to sit them down and kind of degrade, tell them everything that they did wrong. So we kind of took that approach. I don't know, it was probably 10 or 12 years ago. Our account managers, our operations managers, our branch managers, they all have incentive-based pay programs. So they know today what they can make at the end of the year if they just go out and achieve the goals that were set out in front of them. And they have the ability and can pull the levers that are required to make that happen. So you basically eat what you kill. And it's a great way. Some people will kind of, self out, if you will.
Yep.
Like they can see that maybe they're not qualified or fit to do it. We've made mistakes in promoting people in the roles that they weren't going to be successful, and we're able to kind of bring them back and show them standpoint, and from a performance standpoint, that they're better off in a role that's more suited for them than something that they just want, so to speak. So we believe in just giving back. I mean, again, part of our do good philosophy is if you have superstars, you want them to get paid like superstars, and incentive-based pay is a great way to reward those type of folks and watch them kind of level up people that are even underneath them, because everyone's trying to catch them. So it's just always been, we've been athletes our whole life too. Most of our organization is pretty athletic. So we're always big on setting goals, and we're big on metrics and KPIs, and that stuff's all very visible on TVs and the branches every day. So everybody knows the score. And that's the thing. If you're going to do that, you have to know the score. People need to know.
Yeah, that's a great point you make there at the end, is if you have incentivization programs and people don't know if they won or lost until, 30 days after the quarter or the period, then it's not doing anything for anybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're using tools like we're one of the first users on Aspire. We're utilizing the dashboards. Our teams know in real time every single day if they're winning. Like an account manager has an enhancement goal and a number of quality audits that they need to perform on a daily basis, and you can tell if somebody's winning or losing in real time. And it also allows us to direct the conversations where we need to have them. Like some people are just killing it, and then there's others that, for whatever the reason may be, need help. Whether it's just a good stiff conversation, or they're genuinely struggling with something, or there's some, geopolitical or economic headwind that's impacting what's going on, right? Like supply chain issues or staffing, whatever. But it allows you to ask better questions and get deeper in the organization and support people where they need it.
Totally agree. Yeah. And I'm sure over the last 10 years, you guys have made some mistakes on that program. What's something that you made a big mistake on when it came to the bonus program?
So the incentive programs didn't work all the way down through the frontline workforce. It actually became a disincentive. So
Okay.
when you think about all the challenges that you have, like on the front lines with, no call, no shows and staffing and hitting efficiency numbers and those type of things,
Yeah.
although they were all measurable and we could track them, when things didn't go well, like there was too many call-offs or too many no-shows and it impacted a crew and they were automatically eliminated from a certain portion of the incentive-based pay, which was getting paid monthly, it became a disincentive. So we had to kind of uncouple that and pull it back. People think differently in the organization. If you think about your frontline workers, they're making rent and car payments and some of those things. We're trying to level them up and lift them through the organization and pay them more money and create financial stability and awareness for those folks. But the reality is they need resources today. Or managers, I want them thinking farther into the future, whether it's an operations manager, whether it's not just today's schedule, but next month's schedule. And an account manager, I want you thinking about retention a year from now. And a branch manager, what's retention look like in 3 years? And what are the goals that we need to hit? So you're incentivizing people at paying those rewards at different times because you need different results and outcomes from those folks. So one size does not fit all. So I don't recommend you just go out and start incentivizing. And the other thing is a good incentive plan, Mike Rory taught me this years ago, was it needs to pay for itself. You should be able to quantifiably go back, look at the P&L and figure out where you're generating the savings or the extra margin dollars to pay for these programs. These programs need to self-fund. Otherwise, you're just giving profits away. So that's the tricky part. There's a lot of companies out there that can help set these things up. You don't need to struggle with it and try to figure it out on your own or try and fail too many times. Like there's a lot of resources.
I totally agree with that. Yeah. So it's maybe a different cadence for regional managers or branch managers than your frontline team members. And not just a different cadence, but a different measuring stick of what is success in their role and their position. And I think the hard part, right, for most companies is what you said, which is the rollout, the creation and strategy of this. And do you have any recommendations or anyone you've worked with that you feel has really helped you set these enhancement or these incentive programs up?
Yeah, there's a host of consultants that we work with that contributed in certain ways. Ken and Ben from Advisor and Frank Ross and Kevin Kehoe was our sales coach at the time before Aspire even existed. And Jack Mattingly, there's tons of them that we've worked with, pretty much everyone in the industry. But you have to be thoughtful about how you communicate it and roll it out. You have to ask for grace, and I think you need to build a case study. You need to take a portion. If you've got 4 divisions, take one of them and ask them for permission to kind of try to test it, right? Reward them, give them some sort of incentive to go through it. And then when we started rolling it out and getting more conviction about doing it, we started with our account managers because retention, enhancement sales, attachment rate, margin profile, all of those things are so important. We're like, if we can tweak this by 1%, every single year for the next couple of years, like drives huge. So we tested it on the AMs. And once we had conviction around that, then we said, okay, let's go to the operations teams because they ultimately impact the outcomes on the account management side. So we just thoughtfully did it. It probably took us 5 years to roll it out across the board. And if you make a mistake, you just pivot and fix it, right? We took the high road and said, once we roll these things out, we're going to give up trust.
Yeah.
So the employees benefited from going to these type of programs early on. And then as we brought new people into the fold, they went into our standard incentive-based pay programs.
That's a great way to do it. Knowing that maybe the first program that you roll out might be a little rich, and that's okay because you need that buy-in. You need that. So interesting thing I'm picking up on here when I'm thinking of our business at 24 million with 3 different divisions, basically all around the same revenue point, maintenance, commercial construction, residential construction, 3 completely different incentivization programs, different, you have to bonus people differently, not just from an account manager to a project manager, but crew leader to crew leader. And so having that focus of maintenance, I'm sure has been able to help you guys iterate and change faster because if you get the account manager piece right, then like the whole business kind of works. Is that really helped you guys as you've scaled over the last 6-7 years, 10x from 20 to 200, enabled you to scale faster and scale smarter?
Yeah, the more you can standardize the business, right?
Yeah,
The easier it is to scale it. And, and the faster you can scale it, the more portable it becomes so you can move it around. And you, again, we just weren't good. There are some amazing lifestyle companies out there, folks that run awesome businesses that do 3 million, that do 10 million, that do 30 million, right? They built a business model based on doing all of these different things. That's great. If that works for you, keep doing that. For us, it was about how do we refine it, kind of dumb it down so we can have this singular focus, right? And we can be great at doing this one thing. And when you get that laser focus, all of these other programs and initiatives that you want to roll out to your organization become easier to implement. Not easy, but easier to implement and roll out across the entire platform. You don't have to think about it and burn calories and kill brain cells every single week, every single job, every single profit center in the P&L. It's just kind of a rinse and repeat kind of scenario.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I like how you say you can do it different ways. It's just, this is the way that has worked for you guys. And I think there's a lot of people who look at the larger companies. Let's just take all the companies over 100 million in our industry. And I think there's a lot of similarities in the idea that each of those companies does one thing really well. Like the Mariani Premier Group, they're great at design, build, custom residential. That's the lane that Frank has picked. And, there's others. When we talk about the biggest company, the gorilla of the industry, Brightview, publicly traded, which gives us some ability to really analyze that company on a quarterly basis based on their reporting and their stock performance. What are some of the things that you have looked at from Brightview and said, hey, that's actually a really good idea? And are there any other ideas that you've looked at that said, hey, we're probably not going to actually do that? We're going to try to learn from that company. How much of that do you guys pay attention to?
To say we don't pay attention would be not completely truthful. What I will tell you is what Scott Brickman did for our industry with the Brickman organization, and then later KKR kind of consolidated into what is today Brightview. Two very different things. But Scott brought awareness to our industry, taught us that we could think differently, professionalize, created that kind of institutional capital curiosity. And since institutional capitals come into our space, right, look at the advancement in technology that exists. All that cash started flowing in. We got software. We've got things in a fraction of the amount of time that it used to take us to do it. So there's a lot of positive that have come out of that thing. You can also learn a lot from a bad situation, I believe. Like there are things that in the kind of merger of the two, big boys in the industry when Valley Crest and Brickman became KKR or Brightview, sorry. Yeah. There was this cultural collide, this clash, and this major emphasis and focus on just you make money through just margin controls and, you do it on the backs of people, not with people. So there was a lot of that stuff that as a spectator, you got to stand back. And I will tell you that our business is better today as a result of having a front row seat and seeing things that they did that didn't work. But kudos to them for getting after it. Like they did it. Like they went out there, they did something amazing. It's special. Now, is it perfect? No. I mean, does it have warts? Yes. Does everybody use them as a punching bag? Of course they do, but we've taken a different approach and we focus on us. We do things the way we do things, the SGM way we like to call it. But we're always watching. It's not just the Brightviews of the world. It's all the big organizations. Davy Trees in our backyard, probably one of the greatest green industry organizations on the planet. It's hard to find things that they do wrong, right? But they're a great organization. There's so many takeaways that you can get from all of these larger and smaller companies. We still mentor people. We still have people come in and shadow our businesses. I'll stop in and sit at a $3 million company and ask questions, and sometimes it's just kind of getting back into it to understand the new way of doing things. But I think you have to continue to be, history is a great, educator, but what are you going to do with it once you figure it out? Like, what are the good experiences, the bad experiences? How are you going to go out and execute on them? And that's what we really get laser focused on. I know I was tripping around there a little bit, but
Yeah, no,
I'm not
true.
one of these guys. I'm not one of these guys. I think a rising tide lifts all ship. And one of the
Yep.
reasons I enjoy talking to you, ourselves, and I think everything happens for a reason in this industry. And I think, you can continue to learn and embrace the change that's taking place. 4 years ago, you wouldn't have caught anybody through them. And now it's standing room only and all these things because people realize the value creation that it affords you
It's really amazing. And I completely agree with the influx of institutional capital. And I think there's more investor types that are looking to get into our industry, whether it be a venture backed system or something else coming out of the tech world. I think we're just going to continue to see more excitement and investments into the industry. And it's honestly, it's thanks to companies like you and what you've built, Jerry, and the Landscape Collective that you're standing up. It shows some level of predictability of future cash flows around what you guys have been able to do and what you're headed and where you're going. So tell me a little bit about the equity piece when it comes to employees. When you typically bring on a sponsor, there is a carve out for a management pool or something. Did you guys do something like that? And what has been the pros and cons of a carve out?
Yeah, it goes back to the incentive-based pay. We called it different things at different times in our career and on our journey, but we've always had a profit sharing plan in the company. Today, we have both the profit sharing, the incentives, and we've got this opportunity for equity, and it's for going above and beyond. It's for key stakeholders in the organization that aren't just focused on the day-to-day aspect of their job, right? It's for value. Value for themselves, value for our shareholders, value for the rest of the organization and their families. It's super fun to be able to get people to participate in that. But it's sacred, and it's spread out deeply across our organization. And we've done a really good job of sharing it and kind of you can't will people to get better and want to up their game. We can coach, train, and develop and help you understand and kind of get bought into the vision and the direction of the organization. But at the end of the day, you got to want to do it. And, what we're building, we're extremely proud of. It is not easy. It's a grind every day. You think of what's like running one location, run 36 locations, same challenges, same issues, people, process, profits. You have all of those things. It is reserved for people that can see through all that really and get laser focused on the purpose and the vision of the organization. So for me, it's the most fun part. We had a successful outcome here in December. We talked a little bit about it earlier. We were able to share this with several people. And the cool part is too, we've done 21 acquisitions, and every one of our affiliates, our partners, the people that have locked arms with us, they held a large portion of the equity, the overall equity in the organization, and they've all done amazing things for their people along the way. Transaction.
I think it's an area that not a lot of people talk about because of the NDA aspects of a private equity deal and doing a recap and bringing in a new sponsor. A lot of people just kind of graze over it because they're afraid to say something. But I think it's really important to highlight what you just said, which is all the companies that have partnered with you over the years. In December of 2025, you guys had that opportunity to really create a lot of generational wealth for dozens of people, I assume, within the organization. What was that like the day after that close and when the wires went out? What was like the vibe around the office and around the team?
Anticlimactic. We were exhausted.
Yeah.
We're still running the base business, and a lot of that stuff is very confidential and top secret, so to speak, when it's happening. In addition to running the base business, we were also in the process of closing 3 acquisitions and going through our own transaction, of course. So it's a lot of work, but it's also a testament to the strong team we built when we needed to step out and kind of take care of business on the transaction side or step back into the integration piece of this. We've got people that are just waiting in line kind of to put their hand up and help, and which is why we take care of them. And, I think there's been this misconception. I think it's softening a little bit. People just have a negative connotation of private equity experience. And I always liken it to a bank.
Yeah.
You're starting out, you're growing your business. You don't own your trucks. You don't own your building. The bank owns everything.
Yeah,
Right? Like you're leveraged. And what we're doing is no different. It's a non-traditional form of financing the growth of the business. So people kind of get hung up on losing control and private equity wants to strip your business. I'm here to tell you that if you're running your business and running it profitably in the way you're supposed to be running it, private equity has no interest whatsoever in running your business day to day. No interest. They loan you money. They help participate in the upside of the business so you can go out and continue to grow and expand and scale the business and do more of it. So I see all the haters on, I don't do social media, but I do get on LinkedIn every now and then. If I got something to say, I'll private message somebody, but, seek first to understand. Like if you're thinking about succession planning or business continuity, or you're simply getting started and you want to grow your personal net worth and get it to a certain size and unload it, do the homework. Go talk to people. Again, private equity only meddles in your business when things aren't going well. So you heard it from me first. So
yeah,
just keep doing what you're doing. Keep your head down, stay humble, hungry, and smart, and keep grinding. And you don't have to.
I love it. I'm really glad you said something, and I'll be honest. I've been an advocate of the small guy, the family owned operators out on LinkedIn, because I am one, and it's fun to kind of like, trade blows from time to time, but I've got nothing but respect for not just the private equity guys and the value they bring to the industry, but also the operators who have partnered, such as yourself. And I love studying to see what you and others are doing when you partner with private equity, because it forces the playbook to get really, really sharp and really focused on how do we not just grow a company, but how do we actually generate a return on this investment, which family businesses, we never really have to do that. We just, as long as there's cash flow and the bills are paid and there's enough money in the bank, you're running a good business. But when you have to start to look at return on invested capital and how are you going to return this investment back to shareholders, it forces you to think like a true CEO. And I really respect you and others who have done that and done it for the right reasons as well. I think that's important.
Yeah, there's no shortage of really smart, talented guys. Brian Helgo and Tim Portland, like these guys built amazing companies. Yeah. Teddy's and Brian Dumont, like great companies. We all have the same challenges, the same set of issues that we've always had, right? But you figure out ways to lead through it because people are our most important asset. And you have to, it's not enough to just talk about creating opportunities. These are people that are actually going out and doing it. They're putting their money where their mouth is. And yeah, they may take some body shots and some head blows every now and then about certain things. But I can tell you personally, knowing a lot of these folks, I mean, their heart is in it for all the right reasons. And I still say the best part about this industry is everybody's willingness to share anything and everything when asked. I don't care what CEO you call in this country. I've never had a situation where I've called somebody and somebody wasn't willing to help or be completely transparent, open book. I've never. And even today, we're in the same boat. We practice that belief. I had mentors like Jeff Tovar and Mike Rory and, several others kind of as we were coming up in the business that always said yes and were willing to help. And what you'll find, and you won't hear about on all the social media stuff, is there's way more good people out there and great organizations than people want to give credit for. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions.
That's a great offer. And yes, you've shared so much with me at conferences and dinners, and Tim Portland in a dinner in New York. I must have talked to him for 3 hours between dinner and cocktails, and he laid out his entire acquisition and onboarding plan to me, like the first 2 years, month by month, exactly what he does. And I was just like, dude, this is incredible knowledge, and I think it's unique to our industry. I don't see the same. I've got some friends in the tech industry and in others, even home service. There's a little bit of this, but everybody's got kind of like this thing they want to sell you in a course. And, that seems to be a little more gimmicky. I think the landscape industry is just a little more down to earth, no pun intended. Jerry, you've mentioned Mike Rory a number of times on this podcast and others. What's one of the biggest takeaways you've taken from your mentorship from Mike Rory?
I think a lot of it came down to that focus. If you think about the hedgehog concept, Mike built an amazing business down in Cincinnati. He was super focused on being a commercial maintenance guy. He was also a disciple of Frank Ross, so a lot of folks, we all kind of traveled in the same caravan, so to speak. So there was a lot of fundamentals that were similar in the businesses, not just business principles and the way the business is run, but even from a values perspective. So I think being able to have these conversations and connect on a deeper level, even on a personal level at times, just created a tremendous amount of value and inspiration. When you think, you go down and see, I think at the time Mike was doing $20 million or whatever. They were like icons and couldn't have been more gracious with his time and sharing spreadsheets and the way they estimated. And they just really gave back to the industry and really appreciated, I think, what the industry gave them, because they all had their own mentors, along the way as well. So it's just been really fun, very rewarding, and very humbling at the same time. And it's kind of fun to see the changing in the guard. I had full on hair like you had that one had a mullet. It takes something out of you, but we've gotten sometimes think we deserve. So it's been an awesome journey.
Couldn't agree more on that. So start to wrap this up. You've mentioned your superpower is being a bit disruptive or being a disruptor. Tell me a little bit about that. What do you like to disrupt, and what does that mean to you? I love this.
My leadership team calls it meddling. I just call it working. So,
same.
I've always run scared my entire life, whether it was in high school playing sports or in college playing sports. Like, there's always somebody coming. There's somebody putting in the work. Somebody's, doing what they need to do. Somebody wants what you have. And I would say that it's probably one of the biggest reasons that we've enjoyed some of the longevity that we've had in the industry, my brother and I, is because we've never really taken ourselves seriously, and we always knew somebody was coming. There's the next Jerry and Jim. His name's Justin, and there's this whole thing. So we've always been wise enough to kind of keep our eyes open on what's going on in the industry. And you have to embrace change. Yeah. But, we've surrounded ourselves with a bunch of really, really smart people. We've got a lot of really smart executive level leadership that are great with strategy and removing the administrative obstacles to our operational teams, but they've never really ran a business.
Right.
And, our ability to kind of separate those two and stay super focused on being great operators has allowed me the luxury of being able to say, I hear you, I see what you're trying to accomplish, but it doesn't work. So I'm looking at KPIs, I'm listening to conversations that are taking place, and I'm inserting myself where I think I need to, because somebody's coming. Somebody's always going to be chasing, and I don't want to get passed up on my watch.
Well, you've got a bullseye on your back because of the amazing work you've done. So congratulations on that. Thanks for sharing so much with us, Jerry. You're always an open book, and it's just been a pleasure to have you on the Trade Stock Podcast today.
Yeah, it's awesome. I enjoyed spending some time with you. Look forward to seeing you probably in a couple of weeks, right? There's a tech conference and all these other NALP events, and the Aspire events are coming up. So it's time to get back on the road.
Thanks for tuning in to Trades Talk, where the next generation of disruptors comes to raise the bar. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in the trades who's ready to level up. For more tools, insights, and community, follow host Justin White and join the movement at jwhitegroup.com.